All right. Well, everybody, welcome back to Weird Mythic Podcast.
Oh my gosh.
This is crazy. We've been gone for so long. Serena, how are you?
I'm great. I'm sore because I went to the gym and today was like day one of me like seriously going to the gym.
Right.
So, yay. That's going to be fun. But I'm really excited. I'm really excited that we're back. I feel like it's going to be so chaotic though because we've been out of it for so long.
Yeah. So it's almost like starting over after a couple months, but we're back at it, guys, and we got, some stuff ready to go for the next couple weeks. So I'm excited to just be recording again instead of just doing research for the hell of it.
I know, right? Me too. Yay. And we did tease this episode a bit on our last part of this episode. So today what we're going to be talking about, we're doing a part 2 to our vampires episode, which dropped around Halloween.
Yes.
So months ago,
yeah. So I actually re-listened to that episode.
Gosh.
And we had a lot. I was like surprised how much we had. We went through pretty much everything that had to do with how everyone knows of vampires today. And I thought it was even just interesting having to re-listen to it.
Yeah.
I'm like, we did talk about that. Oh yeah, we did. We brought all that up.
I feel like it was one of our longer episodes too, and we were both like, there's still so much to cover.
For real. Exactly. And that's why we have part 2.
Yeah, and then you get to the research part and you're like, well, it was kind of hard to pull stuff, but I feel like I went in an interesting direction that also counterparts into one of our other episodes that we've done.
Oh, perfect.
So, yay.
All right. Well, sweet. All right, cool. So I got just a couple things to mention from like the last vampires episode that we did. We pretty much talked a lot about like how vampire lore had started in like England and in Europe really, and how it was brought here to the US. You talked about the Casket Girls. I talked a lot about Vlad the Impaler and how all of it actually kind of merges together into how we kind of see vampires today. But something else I wanted to mention that is also in the Europe area. So there was this vampire called the Hunchback Alnico, and it was in Northumberland during the medieval era, and the castle that he was actually in could have been the inspiration for Hogwarts. So I had to mention that. Ooh. Just because.
Yeah, you must.
But I have to. But pretty much he was this kind of monstrous looking guy, and he like brought disease and death to Northumberland, and he would wait until nighttime to go into the village and either raid somebody's house, or he would eat the weak and vulnerable in the village. And then one night the village people cornered the hunchback and set him on fire. And that was in like the 15th century. So I had to mention that just because it was funny. Well, I wouldn't say funny, but I'm like, it's a hunchback who's a vampire. I didn't mean to say it was funny. I was like, it just kind of like, it was like this little snippet of something that I couldn't mention from the last one. So I had to mention it now. And another one was the Blandford vampire. And this was in eastern parts of Europe. And the superstition goes that if a person kills themselves, they will be forced to become a vampire and wander the world. According to legend from a William Doggett, who stole money from his employer while the employer was away on vacation. Before he came back from vacation, William died. So this guy stole from his employer and ended up dying before the employer could even come back and notice that something was stolen from him. But since William was extremely scared of being caught, sorry if I said he died, but he actually committed suicide. It wasn't just he died. He committed suicide after stealing this money, right? So, once he came back, he's like, not only is his employee gone, but his money is gone. So at that time, there were still townspeople who kept seeing William around town. And they're like, oh, he's not dead. We've been seeing him walking around. And he was always covered in blood. And he was going through town on a black carriage pulled by demonic horses. Don't know exactly what that has to do with vampires, but what he started doing when he was in this black carriage, being drawn by these demonic horses, is he would attack young women or widows and he would crawl inside their home and then drink their blood. Like, so that's the vampire part of it. But the whole fact is, like, he committed suicide, but we keep seeing him around, and he's in this horse-drawn carriage, and they're, like, demonic horses. I was like, I haven't heard anything about that. But once the townspeople are like, okay, it is William who's attacking these young women or widows in their home, they went to his grave, and he was still, like, well preserved. Like, it has been however long that this lore had been happening, and it was like he wasn't even decaying. So that kind of went back into the vampire lore.
I feel like that was something that we had mentioned in the last episode too. It's like, if you open the grave, they're like exactly preserved and nasty. I don't like it.
So yeah. But those are the two that I just wanted to, we kind of talked about them from our last episode, and that was the lore behind them. But I'm now going to go to a completely different side of the world, and I'm going to be talking about vampires in Hinduism.
Okay, cool.
This was hella fun to look into, you guys. I had so much fun. So, I do apologize to any of my Hindi-speaking friends out there if I butcher these names, but I am going to try very hard. So, it's just going to happen. Everyone can laugh at me. It's fine. Okay, so I want to talk about a vitella. And this, the lore of a vitella came out in the 11th century. And really what the vitella is a vampire, but they also kind of tell the future, and they also know what has happened in your past. So they're also kind of a medium. But what they do is they will possess bodies of the dead and then reanimate them. So it's almost like a possession also. But according to legend, the way that somebody becomes a vitella is if the body is buried wrong and without proper funeral etiquette. So if you pass away and you weren't, properly prepared for the afterlife, you would come back as this vitella. It's almost like your spirit is coming by to take over the corpse, and if that's yours or somebody else's. There has been some instances where they say that the vitellas can possess a living person. So, when a person's corpse becomes a vitella, they are not themselves. Like some vampires who keep their humanities, vitellas do not. They are way more of a demon. That goes into the whole possessing the corpse. I also have written down here that they could also possess animals. So that's completely different from any other vampire lore that I've read before.
Watch your pets, people.
Right? So the main thing about vitellas is they take a lot of joy from destroying things. And this can be everything from murdering people to causing miscarriages or just making somebody go insane. Like, that's all they want to do. They just want to cause just grief and strife in people's lives. Vitellas like to hang around cemeteries or crematoriums because, where else are you going to possess a dead body? Pretty much.
You're right.
Right. But to get rid of a vitella, you need to chant a mantra and perform the correct funeral rites. So it's almost like you got to go back and redo the whole funeral if you think your loved one turned into a vitella.
Oh, that's crazy.
Very weird. I didn't find a whole lot of somebody coming in contact with vitellas because a lot of it is like this person came into my life and now I'm having a bad time. And now that person is gone all of a sudden. So they're thinking that was a vitella that came into their life to just cause just mischief and shit going on.
Damn.
So another one I wanted to talk about, they are called Pay Miclear or Pay. There's actually male and female. That's why there's two different names. So these are vampires who haunt the grounds of battles and wars, and they only feed on the dead and dying on those battlegrounds. Very specific. So the female is the Pay Miclear, and they eat the flesh of the dead and dying, and they will also dance as they do it. So I don't know what kind of dance they're doing. I just keep thinking the whole light bulb, door handle.
They're twerking.
They're twerking. So they will eat the flesh, and it has nothing to do with exactly drinking blood, but it is very much, demonic and vampire-like, that they're even on a battleground. They specifically go to those who are dead or dying and eat the flesh. And the fact that they danced really creeps me out. And then the male version, they are Pei, and they are the ones who drink the blood of the dead and dying. They don't eat the flesh or dance, they just straight up drink the blood. I did read in a few places that these are more seen as like angels of mercy almost, because they are specifically on war grounds, battlegrounds during war. And instead of having those people suffer and die suffering, it's like they come by to kind of push it along so they don't have to suffer. So,
well, I don't know, because
odd.
if you're pausing to take a dance break and you're jagged hands, like, I feel like it's not very quick, no?
Right? Especially, like, if that person is just, like, maybe has, like, a broken leg or something, and they're, like, trying to crawl away. Could you imagine, like, this creature coming at you dancing, gonna eat your flesh? Like, that's fucking scary. Yeah, they're like, hey, what's going on?
It's your time. I would be
Everybody
so
needs to see us on Zoom dancing at each other, by the way.
I should make this a GIF.
So those are the Pei and Pei Mekliers. Another type of vampire I wanted to talk about for Hindu lore is the Pishak. That's Pishach. Pishak. And according to the legend, this entity will feed on low emotions. So cruelty and death, misery, chaos. I also have disturbance written down. There was like a list of feelings that I found that this vampire like feeds off of those. So this is like an emotional like, isn't that what it would be called? Like emotional vampire or something like that? Like, I've heard it before.
Yeah. I know a couple emotional vampires.
Yeah, right? They just seem to suck the life out of you, man. But they specifically seek out those who are weak and vulnerable. And so what they do, they really do just kind of feed on negative feelings. But what they'll do is it's another type of like spirit. So like one of the first ones that I just talked about, which was the Vitellas, how it is more like a spirit that enters the body, or it is your spirit reanimating the body, but it's completely different from who you were. So what this entity does is it actually enters the body of the weakest link of a household. And they could either enter you from food or drink or sex. So be careful. Don't know exactly how it works, but those are the ways that it can get into the saddest or weakest person in that family household. Once that person is possessed, that's when the Pishash then searches for meat to eat. So that's the only time that it starts to eat, obviously, because as an entity, it's not really doing a whole lot of eating, I'm guessing. That's why it has to enter the body of somebody. So the Pishash will befriend another human once it has been, inside the person it wants to possess. Not only is it possessing the weakest person in the family, but then it befriends somebody else that's in the family or outside the family, and then starts to create conflict. They start picking fights, they start arguing, they start like whispering negative little things to them when they're sleeping, so it's in their dreams, so that they're waking up and thinking these bad thoughts, or goes to talk to somebody else in the family. All those negative emotions, of course, go with them. And then they start to have more negativity in the household. Everybody then starts to argue and fight, and it's just more fights. It's all bad. Nobody wants that. They also start to like drink more alcohol or do more drugs in the household. They're trying to bring in all this negativity to bring everybody down.
Yeah, it almost sounds like a demonic possession, how it like affects the entire household and the surroundings, and like people will say like, or even like a haunted house or something. Like I know like a lot of kids who were like, I grew up in a haunted house, and then my parents would always fight, and then it ended in divorce and this and that, and like it's always like a negative environment.
Right. Yeah, that's almost exactly how I felt about this type of vampire. They can take many forms, and that the main thing they do is just manipulate. They can come to you in a form that you trust, like another person, but once the Pishosh has broken that trust, you've lost. You've lost that friend, right? So it won at that point.
Oh,
and that's all
sad.
it's trying to do. That's legit what it's trying to do, is just break up the family household, break up that friendship, break up that relationship, just by all negative emotions and manipulating the person it has possessed. There is one way to get it out. Because again, like how you were saying, how like if it's a haunted house, how many stories have we heard that people will bring in a priest, right?
Yeah.
And then everything will kind of stop.
Mm-hmm.
So you need to find a guru. And the guru will hold on to you really tight. And that first negative thought that you get and you say it out loud, that's when the guru then starts speaking the principles of the Vedas, like not their Bible, but things that they believe in and mantras and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the guru will then start talking to you, since you are the one who is possessed, and just reminding you on what those Vedas are, the mantras, the principles of Hinduism, and everything that goes with it. The Pishosh don't like spiritual places, so that's how they get out of the person. It's almost like an exorcism, but
yeah,
it's really not at the same
time.
It's like
less intense too. Like you're
way
not,
less
like,
intense.
dousing them in holy water.
No,
and,
no. It's really just like
crucifixes.
holding that other person's hand. That person then verbalizing their negativity, and then the guru goes right into just like, you gotta remember your principles. You gotta remember the good things. And then the Pishosh then eventually goes away.
Huh.
So, yeah, there was that one. And I think I have one more. Let me see here. So, I found some hella cool YouTube videos, guys. And I will have to send them to Serena so she can agree with me that they are awesome videos.
I'll post them in the description of this podcast episode.
Exactly. So, I am going to talk about... So, the Pishosh, which I just mentioned, there's like 3 or 4 different types of Pishosh. And I found 3 videos online that I had to watch. They were like episodes of these 3 different kinds. Anyways, I'm just going to go through them real quick. There's one called the Boot, which is Bhoot. And it's like this ghost boy that he will pretty much give you anything you ask, but then you like turn into a vampire at the same time. And something bad goes on, you start tricking people, you get the powers you want, and then this little ghost boy like haunts you as it's happening.
Ew.
Yeah, no, it's like this huge thing about this boy that just haunts you. And then there's one called the Rakta Pishosh, and this is a vampire creature that turns others into vampires by just killing them or sucking their blood like a normal European vampire, kind of. But it can only be killed by fire. There's no other way to kill it.
Mm.
And then there is a Jal Pishosh. This was the one that I really thought was like really interesting. And it's a water ghost vampire. They feed on the living. However, the way that they get their victims is by giving gold to somebody. So let's say you're at the river and you see this like really pretty person and they're kind of calling to you. And for some reason, you walk into the river to go to this very interesting person. And what they say is, I'm going to give you all this gold. And can you bring some people to me? And you're like, well, why would I do that? Why are you even giving me gold? And who do I need to bring to you? And they're like, well, I could pretty much kill you right now and you can become a ghost with me, or you can bring me victims. And that's how it starts. So people will bring people to the river of where this Jal Pishosh is. And when they do kill that other person in the river, then that ghost is with the Pishosh the entire however long they're in the river. Like, their ghost stays with them the entire time after that.
What if you, like, say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna go get some people, and then you just never go back? Like, do they taunt
I
you?
didn't find any source that said anything would really happen. I think what it is like you just don't get your gold. It's like you bring these people to me and I'll give you gold kind of thing.
With that. I'm fine with no gold. Honestly.
Yeah, you should see. So the videos that I found, dude, it's like a good hour video. It's like broken up into a couple different like episodes, but they go through how many people were brought to that river
that's sad.
And how many people had gold and were rich, but then they realized they were doing a really bad thing and then they die also because they stopped bringing people to the river.
Oh, maybe you die then if you don't.
Something, or you just get possessed, or you just kind of like stay in the river. And it was just like super, super sad, man. Because some of them were like children. Aww. And like parents bringing their children to the river. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
What the heck? I would never.
I know. No, I don't think usually people ever would. But it was also, since it was at a river and it had to do with like, you don't know that person, it's a stranger. I think it's also a way to deter people away from the river and talking to strangers. So
stranger danger, you're gonna die now.
Stranger danger. But yeah, so those are, I feel like I went through that really fast, man. But I mean,
we're excited.
Yeah, we're excited. I'll slow down on the next episode. But those are some of the Hindu vampires that I found, and it was just really, really interesting to just even watch those YouTube videos. Were so cool. So
nice.
Need to learn more about that religion, I feel like.
I know, I feel like that's like one of your favorite things to like research, and like, you always
gravitate
towards that. So
I do, and
it's just so interesting,
I don't know. Though. One of my favorite things about Hinduism is their gods, their entities, whatever supernatural things they believe in. They're here on Earth with us right now. Yeah. And that's exactly how they see and that's how they feel it. And I don't know. I find that interesting and a little refreshing compared to some other religions.
I agree with you on that.
So there we go, guys. Yay. Let us know what you think about those.
Cool. Well, mine might sound a little bit familiar. Do you remember when I did the episode on the Manananggal, your favorite thing to say?
Manananggal, yes.
So I'm going to touch a little bit more on that. So the Manananggal was under basically like a blanket term, aswang, which I think I mentioned in that episode as well. Mm-hmm. So that's a term for various shape-shifting evil creatures in Filipino folklore. And then, so the aswang is the subject of a wide variety of myths, and they're also really well known throughout the Philippines. Spanish colonists even noted that in the 16th century, the aswang were basically some of the most feared among the mythical creatures of the Philippines. So people were really fucking scared.
Yeah.
And then, I'm basically going off of like one website specifically. I can link it below if I find it again. But basically said that the aswang is a combination of a vampire, ghoul, witch, and werebeast.
Werebeast.
Like, I'm thinking maybe werewolfish? I don't know.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. But just the fact that it was werebeast, I love it.
Not Serena's words, clearly. It's said that the aswang are considered daywalkers because they're not harmed by the sunlight. However, they are the weakest during the day because they do not possess the superhuman strength that they normally have during the day. Mm-hmm. And then during the day, they have bloodshot eyes because apparently they stay up all night searching for homes that are holding wakes so that they can like possess the bodies.
Oh,
or steal the bodies.
Okay. Yeah.
So, don't have funerals at night or wakes at night, I guess.
Or just don't have wakes, I guess. But
they only hunt in the dark because they believe that that's when God is asleep and they can get away with it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what will happen if they tried during the day. I feel like just more people would see and it's not as discreet, you know, because it seems like they're very like discreet. They don't want to be like discovered. Mm-hmm. Like, what vampire wants to be discovered?
Not as a vampire, at least.
They're similar to humans. Apparently, they can experience a wide range of emotions and can even form friendships with people. And apparently those friends that they do make, they wouldn't harm them. Mm-hmm. But I don't know how accurate that is. I think it's just because they don't want to hunt in like the area that they live and occupy because they don't want to be caught, right? They're usually depicted as female. They can use vocal tricks to disguise themselves. So they'll get
Of course they can.
Right? The creepiest thing ever. They'll get quieter and quieter to fool their victims into thinking that they're walking further away and establish a false sense of security. And that reminded me of like the Wendigo when we covered that, how they like can throw their voice to make you think
that's what it was making me think of too. Yeah.
They usually live as quiet, shy villagers. However, at night they will grow hungry and they transform into the bloodthirsty animals. And then there are many forms of Aswang, so it's not just like one creature like the Manananggal, but the Tik-Tik and Wak-Wak turn into large birds, and I think those are named after the noises that they make when their like wings are flapping.
Ooh, okay.
Which is creepy as fuck, to be honest with you. Like when you think about
that's like the Thunderbird. Yeah. The whole reason it was called the Thunderbird is because it sounded like thunder.
Exactly. We're coming full circle here, people. That was our first episode. The Zegbin transforms into the Tasmanian devil. And they can also transform into a crow, a bat, a wild boar, a black cat, or a black dog. And then, like the Manananggal, the Wak-Wak version of an Aswang leaves behind its torso when it transforms. So remember we talked about that in the last whatever episode we covered Manananggal. It was so creepy. Aswangs can also transform the appearance of objects. I specifically wrote this in here for you because I feel like you are going to find this so interesting and you're going to want to ask me more things and I don't know about it. So, all
right, I got my pen. I'm ready. What is it?
So they will replace their live victims with replicas made from tree trunks and other types of plants. Then the doppelganger will return home extremely sick and die naturally to avoid suspicion.
The hell?
So basically they're like creating this decoy of you, say, right? And then that decoy will just go home normally like you would and then just die of natural causes.
And well, no one's the wiser.
Isn't that weird?
That's very interesting because now I'm thinking it's also like some sort of witch.
Yeah,
or
exactly. That's why they said it's like a combination of like all of these different creatures. But I thought you would find that very interesting. And doppelganger. I do. We talked about doppelgangers before too.
Right.
Aswangs eat the hearts and livers of unborn fetuses and young children, which we mentioned in the Manananggal episode as well. That was like her vibe.
Yeah.
They move quickly and silently, and they are so skinny that they're able to hide behind bamboo posts. That's pretty small, yeah.
That's tiny. Like, they're just turning to the side and they just disappear behind it. Like,
so when they hunt, they prefer to travel far from their home so that the true nature doesn't become obvious to everyone in their town. Aswang couples will most likely hunt alone in the middle of the night because they do not like sharing food. And girls, same.
I understand that completely. I don't want to share my food.
Right.
Especially if I'm having to wait all day to go out and get it. Like, literally, I'm hungry.
Like, you can only eat at night. That is crazy. You get none of this. Separating also helps them avoid causing suspicion. If an Aswang dies, they can transfer their abilities to another person. So that we talked about a lot in the Manananggal episode where, like, there was, like, the baby bird, like, chick egg or whatever that, like, goes into a heap. Like, you guys are going to have to go back and listen to that episode. But that's basically how they would transfer their abilities to another person. I don't want to go into that again because it was a lot and it was very, like, technical. Yeah. And I don't want to teach anybody how to become this. So if you're really interested, go back and listen to that episode. You can kill an Aswang with garlic, salt, holy water, a crucifix, a rosary, prayer, or decapitation. They can't step foot into temples, churches, mosques, or any other holy consecrated grounds. And then if a doorway to a home or a building has a special prayer posted by the entrance, they actually can't even go in the house or building. So that's very
want
like
that.
vampire-esque. Yeah, like you can't come
I
in.
want that prayer. Like,
right?
Can somebody translate it for me?
I'll reach out to my Filipino friends and see.
Thank you.
And then this I thought was interesting, which this is the only bit I have on it, so maybe we can do some more research. But you can tell if someone is an aswang by looking into their eyes, and if your reflection is upside down in the eyes, then they're not truly human.
Okay.
To get that close though, like, could you imagine like you're all in somebody's face?
Going back to the Wendigo, how did you know if somebody was a Wendigo? As if their eyes were animal eyes.
Well, they say like the eyes are the window to the soul, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
And then one more thing. There's an oil called Hintura, and I don't know what that oil is, but basically it'll bubble up if there's an aswang nearby. Gotta do
that's good to have.
Too. Don't know what it is, what it's made out of, but...
Somebody enlighten us. Let us know what that is. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that's what I have on the aswang.
I like it. So. Aswang. All right. Yeah. So there was I learned today talking to Austin at work, and he asked me if we were going to talk about, and because I couldn't pronounce it, and I can't think of it right now, but I think we're going to have to do like a cryptids episode on it, or I'll push it into my cryptids episode. But they are called a Chinese hopping vampire. Dude, it was some of the most interesting stuff I've read.
Vampires Part 3 coming soon.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. Like, I really wish, because like there was something when you were talking about the ass one that I was like, that kind of reminds me of the hopping vampire. Like, now I got to talk about that. But I don't know. It's just, dude, that was awesome. I want us to do more on the Philippines too.
Yeah, I try to throw some in there because I feel like we always kind of revert to the same places. Like, we did a lot of like the North America in the early episodes. Now we're kind of getting into like Europe, and we did that a bunch. So I'd like us to definitely explore more, especially because we have so many followers like in other countries. I feel like it'd be nice. Isn't it nice when you like hear something, you're like, oh, that's from my area, that's from my hometown.
Yeah,
like I feel like that's just so nice. So.
We definitely got to represent everything, because there's folklore all around the world. There's different types of creatures that we always try to make connections to, especially if like this reminds me of this in this part of the world.
Definitely,
there's always something connected. So these vampire things, that was so interesting.
Yeah, it was so much fun to finally get back into it. It's been what, 2 months, a month and a half?
Too long.
Yeah,
too long.
Did we even record this year? Like, but one time?
We did for, with, Weird Horizon. That was this year.
Correct, yes.
And that was our last one.
Yep.
It was in January 16th.
That's crazy. Damn, you're good with that. Oh my gosh, it's been almost 2 months.
Pretty much.
Well, we're back, so.
We're back, guys. We're excited. I'll try not to talk so fast on the next show.
And I'm still not into my house, but hopefully soon.
Yeah, girl. I know you guys have been getting there.
It's here. Hopefully. We're just waiting for it to be livable. So.
Well,
soon.
Awesome. Thank you guys again for listening to Weird Mythic Podcast. This is awesome. We're going to get back into it, and we'll have episodes every week, guys.
Oh my gosh, yay. Okay, so we have an Instagram. You can follow us on Instagram at Weird Mythic Podcast, as well as Twitter, we're Weird Mythic, and then Facebook.com/Weird Mythic Podcast.
Yes,
or
and
Weird
please.
Mythic?
Just Weird Mythic.
I don't remember.
Just Weird Mythic. We also have our Gmail account, which is weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Please just send us any feedback. I just want to know, what you guys think of the show. And if you have any stories about any of the cryptids that we've talked about before, would love to have some stories to tell. So,
yes, and if you guys could just shoot us like a simple rating at either Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify now has a rating feature, that would help us a lot. Help people find the podcast, and good pods as well. We were actually getting up there
Yeah, when I checked, I was looking yesterday, and we are number 83 out of 100 on the indie comedy charts.
At least we're still in the top 100. That makes me happy.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, this is awesome. So with only 23 episodes out, I think that's awesome. And that's all because you guys are listening, commenting, downloading, and rating. And we can't thank you enough.
Yes, I can't wait to get more episodes out there. So until next week, you guys.
Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.